I wanted to talk to you today about one of the coolest insights I've had in a while because it centered so much of my philosophy in such a tangible, practical lens or insight. It brought so much clarity to a lot of dynamics that I've intuitively felt and sensed but didn't really have languaging for. So, this is about time and the difference between clock time and deep time. So, I became aware of this in ritual space, actually. I do rituals and kind of shamanic path walking journeys through the self, through the body, through the mind, through the summoning of the spirit. And these are very deep rituals. I spent hours and hours inside of them, very energetically demanding and time demanding. And what I noticed was that there was this weird phenomena happening every time I entered ritual space, where any moment I looked at my phone in the context of the ritual, I became aware that the clock or the time was always some weird spiritual sequence of numbers. And this was every time. I looked at the clock or I looked at my phone exactly at 2:22 and then 3:33 and then 4:44 and then 5:55, and I was just like, what is going on? This is very strange, because I began to see time not as the calendrical clock-based digital unfolding, but rather as a pulse that was communicating with me, and it was actually engaging with me inside of the dynamic of my ritual. So what this made me realize was that time as we know it it's a vastly different entity than the way our culture is taught to relate to it or taught to connect to it. So with the way our world is designed, with the actual societal infrastructure of time, we are bound by the rhythm of this moving clock that says it's 1 o'clock now, it's 2 o'clock now, it's 3 o'clock now, it's 4 o'clock now, it's 5 o'clock now. And we are bound by that. And we don't even realize how that affects our mental, emotional, somatic experience of life. We don't realize how much it keeps us tethered to this anxious, driving sense of life slipping away from us. And what I discovered was that in ritual space, I was accessing a completely different current of time, and this is what I want to call deep time. Deep time is a space of presence that is so deep that it feels like no time has passed, and yet time is passing. Rhythms are passing. Things are spiraling around to the current of you inside of that core, that center point of presence and consciousness. We feel this whether it's in trance, in ritual, out in nature, in ecstatic dance. This is the space where we drop into our body and we don't experience time as moving outside of us. We almost merge with time and we become the center point of time itself. And this way of existing, this form of consciousness, is the most direct pathway to the sacred, both within us and outside of us. So you can understand that having a world that is built on essentially uprooting us from this sacred deep time, how detrimental that is to the psyche and to our spiritual power as beings. Because what happens is it's not just about the idea of time itself. It's about the fact that at every moment of our day, we are being bound by this undercurrent of humming noise that is telling us that we are in deep time, that we are moving somewhere, that we are slipping through this ordered calendrical flow that isn't actually good for our body. Yes, it's good for our mind, it's good for ordering our days around, it's good for kind of creating schedules and systems and things that feel productive, but long term, for our body, for our soul, it is detrimental when it is not balanced with in a relationship to deep time. Because deep time is where our spirit clicks into our body. It's where our soul has room to speak to us. In a world designed on something that is in direct antithesis to deep time is a world that is designed on something that is pulling us out of our soul and our consciousness, our spiritual consciousness, constantly. So it's really important to start seeing this and looking at this clearly. All the ways in which you let the illusion of time as ordered, sequenced, unfolding steal from you the feeling of time as deep presence and deep belonging inside of your presence. This is, it's weird when you start to see it and you start to see how much it's taken from us and how much it's stripped us of relationship to the sacred as a society, as a culture, as a world, because we're all held by the chains of this ordered timing, so much so that we forget that it's a choice. We forget that that experience of timing is just that, an experience of time. It's not law, it's not reality. It is just a frame of reference, an architecture that has been laid and now governs, but it's not all there is. And there's a completely different way of relating to time that actually gives you much more room to feel, to be, to embody, and to hold your essence and your sacred nature. This is why our world is so starved, why our world seeks so much validation, so much to fill the time, because we are actually seeking a return to deep time. We're seeking a return to that presence that commands and that orders reality around it. And that is not something that any amount of stimulation, entertainment, distraction can provide you. That's something you have to cultivate and actually meet. So I want to invite you to do just that. I want to invite you to meet it. I want you to play with the concept of deep time. You may need to make it so that you remove your phone, remove any digital device that tells you the time, and just give yourself over to the space of your presence. That will start to develop this ability and capacity to hold deep time, because we've been so conditioned by this stimulating matrix of numbers and the idea of time slipping past us that it can feel weird for the nervous system to actually embrace deep time. But the more you condition yourself and open yourself back to it, the more you just start to feel it like nourishing and quenching the depths of your soul's thirst. This thirst for something sacred that you now have a direct portal to. You don't have to go somewhere, you don't have to do something, you just have to re-enter the current of deep time. The spiral of this feminine core of consciousness that is not, it's not structured, it's just spiraling, it's just endlessly moving. And there's so much power there. There's so much of this liminal space where we get to truly meet the divine in however it wants to reach us. So I thought this was really cool to see, because it kind of deconstructed a big illusion that many of us don't even realize or can't even separate ourselves from. We can't even separate ourselves from the ordered sequence of time, and that's why so many of us are so burnt out, because we're running off this fake thing that is, we're giving it so much power, so much weight, and so much agency over the way we live our lives, thinking that time is running out, thinking we have to do things by a certain day, thinking that anytime the time is passing, it means something, but we forget that there's a deeper presence. And this is something that applies to so many different areas, whether it's a connection or a opportunity or a skill set. If you are trying to develop or build or grow anything, and you're living by these standards of calendrical, digital, numerical time, it's gonna feel overwhelming, because those things aren't meant to be formed in this abstraction. They're meant to be unfolded through the pulse of creation, and the pulse of creation is still, and time moves around it. That is a place you have to become comfortable with and willing to meet in order to fully receive yourself and receive all the gifts that life has to offer you. So I just want you to play with this perspective shift and enter deep time. Start developing a relationship to deep time and watch the world shift around the depth of this new presence inside of you. Thanks for watching.